Welcome, dear listener, and thanks for joining us.
I'm Yanto.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is a podcast all about the weird and wonderful world of the dark comedy anthology series, Inside Number 9.
On each episode, we'll be diving into another one of Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith's twisted tales, putting it under a lens and examining it to within an inch of its life.
So make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of tea, and join us for The Ninth Degree.
Hello.
Hello, welcome back.
Welcome back.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. Life is lifing.
Oh, good.
Yeah, back at work now after some time off, which is always a bit of a shock to the system.
Yeah.
But the thing is also this week, I don't know yet when these episodes are going to be going out, but at time of recording, we are in the middle of the new series of Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. And obviously for my other podcast, About Time, I'm trying to get an episode out like a matter of days after each episode airs. So it's been a sort of mad frenzy of trying to get it edited out in time for the schedule, which, we're 2 episodes in so far, and I've managed it so far, even with this week going back to work. But it was a stretch. I was up quite late last night just putting the finishing touches, and yeah.
Well done. That must be a bit mad.
Yeah. But it's busy season, isn't it, when the actual show is on? Like, the actual thing that I spent the whole time talking about, like, it's actually on. It's like the busy season.
Like Christmas, yeah.
How's your week been?
Fine, just pottering along, answering emails, putting out fires, and all the usual. Yeah. Answering tedious questions that I've answered a million times before to the same people. When you've got a Teams message answering a question that you can see the answer to earlier in, like, still in the same frame, you don't have to scroll up. Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, just look.
Yeah, you should just screenshot it and just sort of, highlight it.
Yeah, I think I copied and pasted the exact answer that I gave last time and pasted it again. And maybe they'll get the answer this time.
I wish you could do that in real life, like just copy and paste something you just said. That would come in really handy for me at school with the kids I work with. Like. Anywho, we're back for some more Inside Number 9.
Yeah, we're back with episode 3, Tom and Gerri.
Tom and Gerri. I tell you what, it's so much fun watching these again. Like, it's such a good show, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm enjoying it that I've not seen a lot of these episodes in quite a few years. Right. So I watched them more, well, not when they were new, but about series 3-ish time I started watching. So yeah, it's quite cool getting to go back and see there's bits that I've forgotten and characters and things that I've forgotten. So yeah, it's really good. So before we go any further, we'll just mention that our special game that we play where we slip in an unrelated Inside Number 9 title into the conversation. Last week was your turn to do that. It was. Can you reveal what title you slipped in? I got Tempting Fate in. I like the lugging the giant suitcase, like that weighs apparently a ton down these stairs, just like tempting fate with every step. Excellent. So it will be my turn this week. Good luck. Those eagle-eared listeners. Let's see if I can spot it. Yeah. And just to remind you as well, hopefully you've seen the episode Tom and Gerri, because there will be spoilers throughout this episode. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it now. Would you like to read us the synopsis from Inside Number 9 Wiki? Tom is a primary school teacher with ambitious ideas of becoming an author. When he tries to repay a good turn from a late-night caller, he gradually becomes the victim of his own generosity. He certainly does. Incredibly vague and short and to the point. So. I suppose it must be quite hard to write these synopses because, especially with an episode like this where there's so much open to interpretation, you don't want to sort of say, well, this is definitely what happens. What happened? Yeah. It must be an interesting one for you as an actual teacher, this one, or school-related situation. I'm not an actual teacher. I'm a teaching assistant, but I work in education. I work in a primary school. I've done 2/3 of the training to be a teacher, just didn't finish it. So yeah, it's quite relatable. Just make me laugh when he's saying about, what is it? He says, I've given everyone a wow star and then every 5th one gets a brilliant or something like that. That's the teacher who's clearly checked out. Yeah, does not care anymore. Yeah. How far really can you go wrong in like year 4 or whatever he's teaching? I assume he's primary school, isn't he? Because they do a play, don't they? Yeah, no, it's definitely primary. The way he mentions, there's talk of someone having to run off to go to the toilet and stuff. It just sounds very primary. Is it an episode that you enjoyed watching? Yes, it's one that I didn't really remember all that much about, in honesty. It's not one I've watched in a long time. But I did. It did surprise me. I couldn't really remember what the resolution was. I knew
someone wasn't real, but I couldn't remember how it worked. It's one of those ones, the more and more you think about it, the more... Is there more layers to it than there's on the face of it?
Yeah.
I was reading up on it afterwards and thinking a common theory that I'd never come across before, that is Mig actually even real?
Yeah.
So obviously we've seen him and we see him dead at the end, but is that the person that Tom's been seeing throughout? Because there's a common theory that he's just like either just a salesman or, you know, his social worker or something that's come around to help, and that this imagined Gerri has sort of convinced him into murdering.
Yes. I think a good bit of evidence for Mig not being real is the drawing at the beginning that you see on the notepad, which was interesting when the camera pans in and he's been doodling this sort of hairy figure with sort of devil horns. Yeah. And then, of course, he manifests at the door. And it's quite a jump to think that he would doodle that and then he would actually then turn up.
Well, I always took it originally on face value that he can see him out of the window and he's just doodled the person he sees.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But yeah, and there's so much of the episode that you don't know, is it a case of, if he's not real and he's not been there, messages get deleted when he's not there, his phone's going missing and we see all of that. Is that us, like, seeing how he imagines it? Like, that actually he's hiding his phone, he's deleting his messages, but not doing it as himself, he's doing it as Mig.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good way of interpreting it, a possible way of interpreting it, that, you know, it's Mig is almost an alternate version of Tom and it represents something inside Tom. You know, Tom's obviously, you know, going through a very hard time mentally. Yeah. And so some of these actions, like you say, the deleting the messages and hiding the phone and stuff, like that could just be him, like, choosing to ignore the messages and losing his phone and stuff.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm inclined to think that, to take it a bit more at face value, that Mig is real.
I think I am, yeah. Or at least he's real at the start. Maybe he leaves and Tom murders someone else, potentially. But I do very much believe he was there.
So for me, I think if Mig was entirely imaginary, or, you know, once he starts taking over was imaginary, I don't think we would see the shots that we see where Tom isn't even present and Mig is doing things like, you know, like getting the birthday money out of the card and stuff. I think the fact that we sort of, as the sort of objective viewer, are watching that happen, I think that's supposed to show that it is really happening.
Well, that's how I took it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's very interesting.
And how much of Mig's story are we meant to believe, assuming he is even true? Like, what is his goal in all of this? Like, is he... Because obviously he's getting a bit of money out of this guy.
Yeah.
But there's not like surely a grand plan. He doesn't own the house that he's trying to steal, or...
No, I think he's being opportunistic, and he's seeing, I've got a foot in the door, I've got a place to live. You know, why he wants to drag Tom down as well as lifting himself up, I don't know. Unless it's almost a revenge thing because of the way how Tom looked down on him at the beginning.
At the start, yeah. Because Mick does change a lot throughout the episode.
Oh, he does,
his
yeah.
His voice massively changes, and his whole personality changes.
Yes.
Which I guess is more evidence to him not even existing full stop thing.
Possibly.
But and how much of his stories about the writer and stuff, how much of that is true?
I was wondering that.
Never know.
Because it comes across a little bit like when he talks about Charles Bukowski and then he says like, oh, I met him. It's almost like Tom fills in the blanks for him.
Exactly.
You know, when you're kind of lying and you just kind of prey on what someone is saying.
Cold reading, yeah.
That's it, yes. Yeah, it had that kind of vibe.
Like, he never says anything that you wouldn't know.
Yeah, only the thing about meeting him in New York, which obviously Tom then jumps on. But, yeah, it's interesting. But it's the when he says, you know, oh, his last book, what's it called? And then Tom tells him Pulp, and he goes, oh, that's the one. It's like a classic sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And then you can see Tom immediately starts to get drawn in at that point.
Yeah, and then he's, you know, the way he's, you know, pouring him another drink, and it's like he does have this ulterior motive.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to interpret that as that is really happening, and that's what Mig is doing.
Yeah, agreed. It does start very interesting, like quite wholesome as well. Like, you know, them just playing little games together, and they're just having a game of Risk and stuff. And
yeah,
it's quite nice. And then it quickly doesn't become nice.
Yes. The way that Mig sort of creeps in. One way of looking at this for me is like, obviously Tom is depressed, and in a way, regardless of whether Mig is real or not, his character represents that depression in the way that he creeps in sort of almost unnoticed at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then gradually takes over and sort of leeches him and pulls him down and starts to dominate.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
And then there's the whole bit towards the start where he's like, it's that awkwardness of how do you say no to someone? Because objective, there's not, there's no reason he has to leave immediately, but he's like, all right, go slowly close the door. Like, and where do you draw the line?
It is awkward. You see that character of Tom and the way he acts there. And for me, I feel like he's not very likable as a character, particularly at the beginning. I mean, obviously you realise throughout the episode what he's going through. He's going through a lot. So, people struggling with their mental health might not necessarily be likeable, but that's not their fault.
No.
But also then you ask yourself, we all like to think we're good people, but how many of us would be the same in his shoes?
Yeah. It's a dark one, guys.
It is a dark, yeah, and it's just an awkward situation, isn't it?
It's a hell of a step down from last week, or step in a different direction, rather.
Yes. Yeah, I found a lot of reviews that said, this was great, but it wasn't very funny. Which I don't mind. I know we call it, even in our introduction, we call it a dark comedy anthology series.
Yeah.
And that's how they describe it. And there are funny bits in it. There is bits of humour, but I just think the dark storytelling and the twisted tales is really interesting.
Yeah. I was reading how they wrote it whilst living together in effectively the same sort of flat.
Yes,
whilst
as a
on the
play,
doll.
wasn't it?
Yeah, originally the 2-hour play.
Which sounds really interesting.
It would. I've often thought how pretty much every episode would work really well as a play.
Absolutely.
Some you might struggle to stretch out to the full time, but other than that, they would work so well. Being in that self-contained environment, all in one place, and it's not about special effects and stuff, it's all about the characters.
Absolutely,
Would work so well on stage, especially one like this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, was it Aristotle's laws of drama? There's this thing about unity of place and unity of action, basically meaning that the best stories are very limited in terms of location and the people involved and what it's about.
Right.
So, like you say, like the fact that it's very self-contained to one location, it just makes them very sort of engaging stories and perfect for the stage.
Yeah. No, totally. Speaking of which, the setting on this one, the set dressers really went all to town, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
There's something everywhere. That flat is hell by the end of by 2/3 of the way through the episode.
Yeah.
They must have had a lot of fun.
You really feel it, don't you? You really almost feel you could walk in there and be like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's grim.
It's grim.
And it is wild how much it changes. And I guess that's again, like you say, is about his mental state as well, how it just sort of puts on the screen how he's feeling in his head. So nicely. He starts to, even though I suppose he's not all back together at the end, he's sort of putting on a front of being and thinks that he's better, I guess. Even though actually he's much worse than he ever was, I suppose.
I just like how, with the majority of Inside Number 9 episodes, it's all about the twists. And I think this is a great example. The first example, I think, in the series of that brilliant thing they do where they lead you in one direction with red herrings and the audience is probably thinking they see where it's going.
Yeah.
And then they completely 180 it,
Yeah.
It's that beautiful sort of misdirection that they do so well.
Yeah.
And so, I remember watching this for the first time and being sure that, obviously Mig's not real then. Like, you sort of get drawn in that direction towards the end. And then it's a real, sucker punch when you see him, when you find out that Gerri is dead and then you see Mig's body in the bath. It's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. And it upends, in just, a minute or so at the end, upends the whole episode.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's a masterclass on how they do that. And yeah, like you say, that they lead you this wrong path and you think you're really clever. And it's like, oh, well, clearly it's this, come on.
Yeah.
And it is a very fine example of it.
Yeah. I was wondering, again, if you take it at face value and assume that Mig is real, Gerri has died, etc., the quote-unquote Gerri that is in Tom's imagination tells him that Mig isn't real, when in fact he is. So obviously that comes from within Tom somewhere. And I'm thinking that I guess it's maybe just, it's easier for him to believe that this person who's come into his flat is not real than to actually let go of Gerri, which he's still clinging on to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mind's way of coping is we know one of these people isn't real, but we'll blame the one that is and keep on to the happier one.
Yeah. What I find interesting is in that moment there when she tells him that he's not real, she then goes away, and then you see Mig hiding behind the bathroom door, and then it sort of opens out. And I'm like, if he is real, why was he hiding behind the bathroom door?
Yeah.
Is he just like observing? Because presumably Tom's just talking to himself at this moment.
Yeah.
Is he just observing that?
Well, presumably, and they're talking about him, so presumably I can't remember the exact line, but they've presumably mentioned Mig's name. So presumably he's listening and being like, oh, what's going on here?
Yes.
What can I get out of this person that's having a breakdown?
Yeah.
So I guess hiding away until it finishes and then see what happens would be my reading of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And presumably he's only hearing half the conversation as well.
Well, exactly, yeah. Unless Tom is doing the voices.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
Split personality, yeah. Yeah, it's a funny name, Mig. I guess it's meant to be.
Yeah. I was trying to work out if it meant anything or they got it from anywhere, but I couldn't find anything.
No.
It doesn't spell anything backwards or anything like that.
No.
But if say he wasn't real, is that why he gets drunk so quickly? Because he's drinking for 2 the whole time?
Probably. Yeah, quite possibly. I like the way that they, as we were talking about, leading you in that direction of thinking that Mig isn't real. I like the way they film it very cleverly to sort of do all these little camera tricks and things. For example, when the beginning of a scene when Tom is on the sofa on his own, and then he goes off to speak to Stevie, and then he comes back and Mig's sitting there like he's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
And it sort of looks like through the television language they're saying, oh, you've seen it from one point of view and now you've seen it from another point of view, that he's not really there, but he's there in Tom's mind. But in actual fact, if he's real, what's just happened is he's just walked in and sat down when you weren't looking. But it's really interesting.
And it did look like the bedroom could be accessed from the living room or the hallway. So there's looks like there's a circuit. So he could be any place in the flat at any given point.
Yes.
Without having to walk past wherever. So yeah, he could have been anywhere. Speaking of Stevie.
Yeah, great character.
For such a small role, he really runs with it.
I have to say, when you first hear his voice on the answer phone message, both the first time I watched it and again for this, because I forgot that the character existed, I thought Stevie was some like older woman who smokes 40 a day, like does have that sort of voice of like, oh dear Tom, come right, But yeah, he does such a good job, the actor.
He does,
like, because he's the comic relief, isn't he? And he brings that lightness
with his box of donuts.
Yeah. It's the bit at the end when he leans right forward and goes, I'll get your tablet. Like,
I think you'd have preferred the cash.
Yeah.
The body shop vouchers.
Yeah. I like the bit where he says, not being a nosy Parker, brackets am.
I love these little characters that you might only get 5-10 lines out of them, but they have such a character. Like, you can believe this person exists.
Absolutely. And that is the strength of their writing, apart from anything else. They're so good at bringing those little idiosyncrasies. And obviously then getting a great cast as well is important.
Yeah,
but
they do make them so believable, especially this guy.
Yeah.
And you notice all the little bits that he does, like he mentioned somewhere about how it earlier on in the episode alludes to Gerri having died. And like how it's all too much for him or something.
Yes.
That's so easy to ignore on a first watch when you don't know what's going on.
It's a great treat, isn't it, when you watch it back and you do know what's happened.
Yeah, and you wonder how you didn't notice it.
Those little rewarding moments.
Yeah.
So Gerri, I noticed that she says at the beginning she hasn't worked for 5 months. And I'm now thinking, is that because she died 5 months ago?
Oh, that would make sense, yeah.
And I also noticed, even though she spends a lot of time looking in the mirror and stuff, we don't see her reflection.
No, I did try and notice that on one of them to work out whether you should be able to see a reflection or not in one shot. And I did wonder about that.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if I'm looking too much into it, but then you're like, probably not, to be honest. There's a lot to look at. And then at the end, when she's making a cup of tea, she's holding the mug in her hand and she goes up to him. And then in the next shot, she hugs him and she's got no mug in her hand. And I don't know if that was that just a continuity error or was that a deliberate, she's not actually there.
Yeah, no, I assume it was intentional.
possibly. Probably.
Yeah. Because if you assume that her appearance is based on him, if he's just forgotten was making tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Then she would suddenly not have a cup anymore.
Yeah.
The whole changing of the name of the character is interesting, though.
The D-Day Doris and Lucy Langell, yeah.
Lucy Langell, yeah.
I think, is there any significance to that, or is that just a bit of humour?
That's the thing. I was watching this going, well, is this a joke, or is this intentional? Is there something more to this? Like, every line you'd read too much into, almost.
Yeah, you could.
I don't think there was anything in it.
No, I think it's just a bit of humour. Because again, this is a perfect episode for me because I've got the teaching aspect of Tom, but I've also done a lot of theatre work as well. Yeah. So, when he says about, it sounds like the sort of shit you'd tour around old people's homes. Like, it's so believable. Like,
I don't know if it's a bit weird that I know, like, the amount of South American Confederacy stuff. Like, there was a flag, there was flags on the wall, there was the Confederate flag as well somewhere else. That seems a little bit weird. Is that just
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't notice that at all.
No. I thought it was a bit strange. Like, why the set dressers specifically put those things in?
Yeah.
I presume you didn't miss the hair this time.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I'd have had to be absolutely blind to miss it today.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, was this the one where they just had it, and then from that they decided to put it in every episode, or?
Maybe this was the first one they filmed. Because
it was very prominent. It's right there on the sideboard, prominent. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Next to this might be the only time I ever get to say where it was. So it was on the sideboard next to the photo of Tom and Jerry, wasn't it?
It was at about 14 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't get the timestamp, but I did see it.
Yeah, I do think it. Other than in Tempting Fate, I do think this is probably the most obvious version.
Mm. I'm wondering. So obviously, Tom and Jerry. They then reference that, and he makes the joke about her last boyfriend was called Ben.
Yeah.
But why are those characters named that, and then why has that become the title of the episode? Is there some reason?
Yeah, I wondered that. As if there was going to be more significance to it than there was. I guess there's the whole cat and mouse thing, that he's chasing one and then they'd swap, and I don't know if I can read that into that. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, you could argue anything, couldn't you?
Yeah.
It's like they say in English literature classes, like, as long as you can back it up with evidence.
Say what you want.
You can say what you want, yeah.
Maybe it's a good way to get you to remember the names, I suppose.
Yes.
And it's because you need to know who Gerri is at the end to say that you're specifically talking about her if you forgot what she's called and she's not had much screen time, maybe.
That's a very good point, yeah.
But speaking of the end, like, what happens afterwards? I know. I often wonder what the aftermath of these episodes is. Like, cuts to credits and then presumably the police get involved. He goes to prison.
Well, they must do, mustn't they? But poor Stevie.
Psychiatric ward. Stevie's
traumatised.
Yeah.
And again, I know it's a very dark moment and it's a very serious twist, but his face when he sees it, it's almost quite funny, isn't it? It's like comedically horrific. Like,
yeah.
Oh, Tom. Oh, whatever.
What have you done?
Yeah.
Do you reckon Stevie's getting out the flat alive?
Well, it's very weird, isn't it? Because if we go down this theory of, this person that he's killed is actually some social worker or something.
Yeah.
Has he been sort of hallucinating that person to be the tramp that he met before?
Yeah.
But he can still clearly see Stevie all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure, and I've not been able to find somewhere that backs this up on the internet, but I'm certain that I read somewhere that they at one point planned on bringing Tom back in another episode somewhere way down the line. Oh, really? And I can't for the life of me find where it was, but I'm certain I've read it, that they obviously ultimately didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he was planned to return, or considered to return when they were writing a script somewhere.
They've never done any returning characters, have they?
No. Which I quite like, really, in a way. It must have been very tempting to.
Yeah.
Especially the more well-loved episodes.
Yeah, I mean, some of these characters, it is a shame that it's like, it only lasts 30 minutes and then they're gone. But that's the nature of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it must have been tempting. Especially towards, like, the end of the series when people are clamouring for, like with Black Mirror and things, when they start doing, they've had in the most recent series a sequel to another episode. Must have been tempting.
Yes, I can understand that. That's something I need to catch up on. Black Mirror, still not up to date.
I've really enjoyed the latest series. I do always recommend Inside Number 9 to people that do like Black Mirror. I do feel it's very similar.
Yes, I can see that.
Just not quite... Obviously, this isn't as technology-focused, but otherwise it's very similar.
Yeah.
They've both got the same sort of cynical look on the world.
Yeah. Must be why it appeals to you so much.
Yeah.
I was wondering as well at the end there, how long has passed between him killing Mig and then Stevie coming round and discovering, how long has he been in the bath? Like,
well, yeah, and I was wondering this in the whole episode, how long's passed for all of it? Like, you just see these random shots every now and then.
Yes.
It must be quite a while to have gone from just missing, you know, an assembly and calling in sick to not having a job anymore, like, and then to being on the dole and wondering why your money hasn't turned up. And
yes,
we must be talking, you know, best part of a year for this whole episode.
Yeah, definitely. And that's part of it as well, isn't it? The fact that the time span is not clear, that sort of just goes hand in hand with the depression. Yeah, that you just lose track of everything.
Yeah, and that we're just dropping in and out in the same way he sort of is.
Yeah, I think it's a really strong episode. Yeah, I've really got a lot of enjoyment from revisiting it. I have to just mention the moment when Mig asks if he should take his shoes off.
Oh,
it's, yeah.
That prop, hopefully.
Yeah.
I did have to turn away, actually, when I was watching it earlier on today. It was really grim.
It is grim. Poor Mig.
Yeah, bless him.
And poor Tom's floor.
Yeah. And just the way he's like, you know, sat down. He's like, would you like me to move? Oh, no, you're already sat there now. Like, you've already defiled the sofa.
Best to contain it, yeah.
Yeah. Don't make me burn more items of furniture.
That's the thing. It's like, Tom is obviously not a saint. No. But then, like I said, like, how many of us are? Like, we'd all like to be, but it's a very, when you're confronted with that situation, it's difficult.
Especially depending on where you live as well. Like, you know, that could easily have ended in a mugging or...
Well, yeah. But not a migging.
Well...
But the bit, like I said about finding him unlikable, it's obviously as well when he's... he wants to give him some money and he's like, oh, I've only got 220s, and he's making a big deal about that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God, just give it to him. Like, don't be such a twat. Like,
yeah. But yeah, the way he wants change for £10 of the 20.
It's the way he's like, it's sort of quite anal about it. He's like, ideally, I would have given you 30, but, you know.
Yeah. And Mig's just like, yeah, whatever. Trying to give him his money back as well. And
Mig seems so sweet in that first scene. And you really sort of feel for him. And then the way it shifts and the way obviously Steve's performance shifts, he becomes so sinister by the end.
It really does. I'm trying to work out how much of that is intentional, how much is just, I don't know. It does sort of fuel the thing to me, of him not being real, actually, the more and more I think about it.
I know what you mean. I definitely think it was intentional. But yes, you're right, because it almost, the contrast between the way the character was introduced and where he becomes is so marked. But then, you know, maybe he was just playing that part to gain his trust at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great episode because it opens up so many questions like that.
It really does, yeah. Until I'd read the research for this, read the theory that he was, you know, that he wasn't real either. I'd never even considered that, and now I have. It's making me think too much about that it's reading into all of it too much. Because obviously when he's drowned at the end and that Stevie sees it, then that's the only categorical thing we ever see of Mig, and he is there as a very respectable-looking guy with a badge. Like... He could very well have been someone from the council or... Yes.
But he looks exactly the same there as he does in the scene with the power cut, where the power's out.
Yeah.
And he's lighting the candles and everything. And he looks so strange there with his like ponytail and his beard's like in a ponytail as well.
Yeah.
And that's where he felt really sinister for me. And he was like, the tables had turned. It was like a classic sort of, he's leached all the life energy out of Tom. And the roles have reversed. And there were a couple of lines, weren't there, that were repeats from earlier in the episode, but said the other way round.
So he starts to give him money.
Yes. Yeah, and Tom says, oh, that's too much or something. It's very well done.
Yeah. Apparently in the writing of this was where they got the character Pauline came from League of Gentlemen.
Yes. Yeah.
And she was sort of originally, in their like play version, sort of more of a character.
Yes.
Which I think is fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Where all these come from.
Yeah, obviously they've put a lot of their own experiences in, which happens when you're writing. You know, from having both been on the dole and experienced job seeking and all that sort of thing. That you can see how it's influenced all that they've done.
Yeah.
I love that, going off on a tangent there, but I loved those League of Gentlemen sketches with Pauline.
Yeah.
They were so, like, the way she treated them, it was like the prototype for Marjorie Dawes in Little Britain. Yeah. And Steve played Pauline so well.
Yeah.
You just wanted to slap her, didn't you?
I went to see a friend and they referenced how someone had nicked their pen, and the other friend just jumped out with, "Oi, Pauline, back in your box," or something. I was like, yes.
It's hilarious, isn't it? Yeah. Pauline's pens. Anywho, this is not a League of Gentlemen podcast.
Not quite.
It's tangential. I did think the look of Mig at the beginning was done very well as well. The costuming and the hair and the beard.
Yeah. And the slow transition.
Yes.
Like how he slowly gets a better wig and a slightly better wig, and then
because of course he has the bath and then sort of cleans himself up, and then he's still got the long bushy, but it's sleeker. It's very good. But that first scene when he opens the door, it's giving, for me, it was giving Hagrid and Robin Williams in Jumanji before he has a haircut. And so apparently someone online said the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz.
I heard that, yeah. I can sort of see it.
Yeah. But apparently Steve hated it. It was really itchy for him, which I can imagine.
It was. Oh, I still can't stop thinking about the foot.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was the next level.
Oh, dear. Anyway, should we give it a rating out of 9?
You go first.
Okay. So this was hard for me because I'm almost wondering if the ones that we've done so far I've put slightly too high, because I think I wanted to put this slightly higher than the first two.
Okay.
But I don't want to put it... So the first two I gave a 7. I think 7 and a 6, maybe. Can't remember now.
Yeah, I think you have a 7 and a 6, yeah.
But I don't think this is quite an 8 out of 9. But it is good, so I'm gonna stick with a 7.
Okay.
So that puts it level with Sardines for me.
Okay, cool. I'm really torn on this one, because if you'd asked me before I'd rewatched it, I'd have probably said more like a 5, 4 or a 5. This isn't one that really sticks out in my mind very much from back then.
Yeah.
But now, having watched it, and then even just whilst we've been chatting now, because I watched them more for... I enjoyed the comedy ones more. I think I'm going to say a 6.
Okay.
That's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I still really enjoyed it, and the twist is great. But yeah, like you said, I don't want to go too high again, and I think we have got a bit too high to start with.
Possibly.
But yeah, I think I'll go with a 6.
That's very good. It's still very good, isn't it? 6 out of 9.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're halfway through series 1.
We are.
Next week is it The Last Gasp?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
We lose Reese for a week.
Oh, he's not in it.
No.
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
That's a shame. I love Reese.
Even he didn't believe in it. Oh, it's a shame. Slight spoiler for my opinion on next week's
I was going to say, is
episode.
that giving something away? I can't remember it well enough to have an opinion at the moment, so I look forward to rewatching that. It's the one with Tamsin Gregg, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be fun. So we'll look forward to that. I hope listeners enjoyed our discussion of Tom and Gerri. And did you spot our hidden episode title that was slipped in?
I did.
I know you did. I saw your little face.
It's my first one.
We'll let you know on the next episode what that was if you didn't notice it, but I think it was probably quite an obvious one. But for now, we're closing the door on number 9.
But you never really leave, do you?
Thanks for listening to The Ninth Degree. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter and TikTok at 9th Degree Pod, or email us at 9thDegreePod@gmail.com. You can also leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts.